What up, Giants fans? You're watching New York Giants Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Marshall Green. Give me a follow on Twitter before we talk about Saquon Barkley, because I'm tweeting about the Giants all day, every day, even though Elon has locked me out of my Twitter on desktop. Appreciate you, Elon. You've really done a great job with Twitter. Thing is, you haven't. But give me a follow, and if you send me a DM saying, I know ball, I'm going to give you a follow back, because you know ball. Let's start with Saquon Barkley on today's show. Kind of a recap here. He has not signed the franchise tag. He did not report to voluntary workouts prior to the NFL draft. The franchise tag would be for pretty much $10.1 million. And reports are coming out that the Giants had conversations with Barkley about an extension prior to draft week. That is what Joe Schoen said back on Saturday of the NFL draft. And a report, according to ESPN, is now coming out that the Giants have offered a deal to Saquon Barkley worth $14 million per year, which would make Saquon Barkley the third highest paid running back in the National Football League based on average per year value. And it goes way deeper than average APY, average per year value, because how much of that money was guaranteed? Maybe they offered him 3 years. What would that be? 3 times 14 is, doing a little math here on the fly, 3 times 14, $42 million. Maybe they only guaranteed $20 million of that. That's what I think Saquon Barkley is chasing right now, is that guaranteed money. This is what the highest paid running backs are, and I'm worried about a long-term contract extension because the Alvin Kamara contract has not worked out. The Dalvin Cook contract has not worked out. The Joe Mixon contract, I would say it hasn't really worked out. Ezekiel Elliott used to be number 3, and he got cut from the Dallas Cowboys. And I would also say the Christian McCaffrey contract did not work out until he was traded to the San Francisco 49ers. There was a reason that the Carolina Panthers traded him. So I just hope that Joe Schoen treads lightly when it comes to this extension and how much money he's going to pay Saquon Barkley. This is what Joe Schoen said to the media on regards of a Saquon Barkley contract extension. They asked him, are you going to talk to Saquon before the season starts? He said, yeah, we'll talk this coming week now that the draft is over, kind of reconvene and see if a new offer makes sense or not, have dialogue now that the draft is over. And then this is what John Mara said to Saquon Barkley about Barkley. Mara spoke to the media a couple of days ago, and he said that you just go through these negotiations with your best player. It's not the first time we've been through it. I'm still hopeful at some point we'll be able to get something done. That is what John Mara said, not Joe Schoen. So just ignore that. But I do want to say this about what Mara said. Of course Mara wants to re-sign Saquon Barkley. He is the face right now of the New York Football Giants. When a person thinks of the Giants, they think of Saquon Barkley. They don't think of Daniel Jones, whether right or wrong. They think of Barkley. He wants to put butts in seats. That's what Barkley does. He wants to sell jerseys. That's what the number 26 jerseys do. Barkley is the most notable player on this team. Of course, John Mara wants to re-sign him. He used a number 2 pick on this guy. He wants to keep him in the building. But I got to say, a long-term running back contract, and especially one with Saquon Barkley, scares me just a little bit, because Saquon Barkley, whether right or wrong, you want to call me a hater, and I should preface this by saying I love Saquon Barkley. I have his jersey, but I also love the Giants, and I love the Giants more than I love Saquon Barkley. I'd love them if they were together, but Barkley has had an injury-riddled career so far. But he was great last year. There's no doubt about it. Of course, he played his best football of his young NFL career during a contract season. He was great. 295 carries, 1,300 plus yards, 10 touchdowns, 4.4 yards per catch, and he was also a playmaker in the passing game. 57 receptions for 338 yards. He's a captain. He's someone that people love playing for. He's a leader. People look up to him in this locker room. I get that. But it goes so much deeper than that for just a running back position. He was also good in the playoffs. I thought he set the tone in that Minnesota Vikings game. That run up the left side where he went to the house. That other run where he just ran right through Dalvin Tomlinson, ex-Giant, at the line of scrimmage. He was great, but he was a non-factor in that Philadelphia Eagle game. And also, when you look at the 2022 stats and you break it down to the first 9 games and the last 9 games, Saquon Barkley was much better in those first 9 games. Let's break it down. The first 9 games this season, the Giants used him more than any running back had been used. Almost 200 carries, almost 1,000 yards, 4.7 yards per pop, and had a long run of 68 yards. And 6 touchdowns in the first 9 games. He also had 6 touchdowns in the last 9 games, but he pretty much had 80 less carries in the last 9 games than he did the first 9 games. His yards were essentially cut in half. His yards per carry went down, and his long run went down. He was also just less explosive and less, I would say, versatile, and just forced less missed tackles in the last 9 games than he did the first 9 games. When you look at these stats broken down, the advanced stats is what I like to call them, is in the first 9 games, Saquon Barkley averaged 93 yards per game. He broke 30 tackles. He had 23 runs of more than 10 plus yards, 14 runs of more than 15 plus yards, and 3 reruns of more than 30 yards. But what about the last 9 games? Yards per carry, he cut that by 30 yards. He had a third of the amount of broken tackles. He had just half of the amount of 10-plus yard runs, half of the amount of 15-plus yard runs, and half of the 30-yard-plus runs. What does this tell you? Saquon Barkley was better at the front of the season. He was healthier. He was fresher. I believe that game against the Houston Texans, where he had 30-plus carries, really hurt Saquon Barkley. I thought that really had a long-term effect on really the quality of the running back that Saquon Barkley set. But I say all that to say, the Giants are a better football team with Saquon Barkley on it, because he is one of the best running backs in the National Football League. But it comes down to how much money and how many assets do you want to really circle around a running back. Go back and look at the teams that have won the Super Bowl. None of them really pay a running back. The Eagles, Miles Sanders was a top 5 back this year. They let him walk. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. I agree with that. And I want Saquon Barkley to be a Giant. But we have to ask this question right here. What should the Giants do with Saquon Barkley? Should they extend him? Should they make him the second highest paid running back in the league? Because that is what Saquon Barkley wants. Should they franchise tag him? Should they have him play on the $10 million per year franchise tag? Or should they trade him? To be honest, I would like to franchise tag him. I don't mind if a long-term extension happens, but I would like to see it one more year from Saquon Barkley. I know people are going to be mad at me for that comment, but it's just the way I feel. I feel worried about Saquon being a long-term contract player for the Giants. That's just all of the running backs in the NFL. I love him. I want him to be on the Giants. I just think the best play is a franchise tag. But hey, I'll leave it up to you. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Little roundup here of all the news and rumors going around the league right now. Is Joe Schoen not done adding talent to this roster? It doesn't sound like it. This is what he had to say. He said, "We are always going to be looking to continue to improve. We'll never be satisfied. We'll continue." Again, right now is another opportunity to add players in depth and competition with the college free agency process. Then we'll have a rookie minicamp next weekend, so we'll have some players that will be here for that. Ideally, we have a bunch of 53 Pro Bowlers, but that's impossible. We'll continue to find where we need to add depth, or maybe light on a starter, or whatever it may be, but we'll continue to add depth and competition at all times. AKA, the Giants are not done adding players to this roster. They want to continue to get better, and that is a smart way to approach the rest of the offseason. There's an opportunity right now for the Giants to go out and sign maybe a free agent like Deion Jones that they had a free agency meeting with prior to the NFL draft. There's still a lot of talent out there, and I expect the Giants to sign at least one more player of a name-worthy player that has a lot of talent to maybe a one-year veteran minimum, that deal that has some contracts, some incentives in that contract. I don't think that Joe Schoen is done adding to this roster. Another rumor out there, and three scheduling notes. Next Thursday, the NFL schedule will come out. We'll be breaking that down for you as well. But the rumor is the Giants and Eagles are going to be the first Black Friday game that has ever happened. Also, it sounds like just a rumor that it might be Giants-Jets opening weekend on 9/11. How cool would that be to see both New York or New Jersey teams play on 9/11? We might get that week one. But this is what Peter King had to say about Giants versus Eagles on Black Friday. He said, the first game ever on Friday afternoon after Thanksgiving is a very big deal for Amazon on the biggest shopping day of the year. I think the leader in the clubhouse for that game is Eagles-Giants. Absolutely not set in stone, though he said he thinks that it's going to happen. And there is nothing like a primetime game, Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be a game that everybody would have their eyes on. If it's Giants, Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, those are always some of the games that draw the most viewership. And I want that game. I want to beat the Eagles on prime time because I absolutely hate the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you hate the Eagles? If you do, let's get in the comment section. Type F Philly down in the comment section. If you hate the Eagles, we got to get our lick back. 3 L's last year versus the Eagles, unacceptable. We got to get our lick back. If you hate the Eagles, sound off in the comment section for me. Type F Philly down below. That one could be really, really, really a lot of fun. We'll close the show talking about this. Did the Giants try to trade up for Zay Flowers? Those are the rumors that are going on right now. According to Dan Duggan of The Athletic, he is reporting that NFL sources have told him that the Giants were trying to trade up in the first round to go and select Zay Flowers. Remember, the Giants did trade up in round 1 to select Deonte Banks. So clearly the Giants were working the phones in round 1. And I believe the Giants wanted to select a receiver in round 1. But when you saw Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, then Jordan Addison going back-to-back picks, the Giants really didn't have any other options. But they did trade up for Deonte Banks. And what was notable about that is Joe Schoen said in his Thursday night press conference that the Giants board was becoming very thin in the later half of that first round, which tells me the Giants had just one first-round grade remaining on a player, and that was Deonte Banks at the time, and that is why they moved up from pick 25 to 24. Do I love that they had to trade 2 picks, a 5th rounder and a 7th rounder to move up 1 slot? No, I don't like that. But I do appreciate that Joe Schoen identified a player he wanted, and he made that move happen. This is what Duggan had to say about the Giants trading up for Zay Flowers, or at least trying to trade up for Zay Flowers, is conversations with league sources indicated the Giants actively pursued opportunities to trade up, having discussions with at least one team picking in the middle of the first round. A source from another team believes the Giants were trying to move up to land Boston College wide receiver Zay Flowers. And that's big news because that tells you the Giants aren't happy with their current wide receiver depth chart. And Dan Duggan went on to say, a league source believes that even after Flowers was drafted, the Giants were content to take Jordan Addison. But the USC wide receiver was picked 23rd by the Minnesota Vikings. So clearly the Giants wanted to select either Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison with this selection, and I'm not mad at that whatsoever. The Giants clearly wanted to add a wide receiver, and they did that later on in the NFL draft, and I'm okay with that. That's not the I moved into A. I'm an idiot. I'll put it in there in a second, Rolly. Just talking with my producer real quick. Give us a second. But I'm not mad that the Giants didn't trade up for Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. I like the selection of Deonte Banks. He's a player that I think is going to be plug and play for the New York Giants. The Giants clearly needed a cornerback, and with Adoree Jackson potentially on the last year of his deal, they added to that position. I do want to tell you guys, though, that we have some jerseys on sale for you guys. Go to chatsports.com/Giants throwback. That is chatsports.com/Giants throwback. You can get the Daniel Jones, the Xavier McKinney, the Saquon Barkley, and they have a whole bunch of legends available as well. I saw an OCU Umenyiora. I saw a Michael Strahan. They have a whole bunch of jerseys that you can go out and get. Get them today. Chatsports.com/Giants throwback. That link is in the comments and description of today's video. The Giants wanted a wide receiver. I think that was pretty obvious. They went to every big-time wide receivers pro day. They went to every big wide receivers pro day and then had dinner or lunch with all those guys. And I get it. Trading 2 picks to move up 1 spot was steep. No doubt about it. But you got to go get your guy. Because a lot of the people that complained about the Giants trading up were the same people that complained when the Philadelphia Eagles traded up to get in front of the New York Giants for them to select Devontae Smith. You don't want the GM that's just sitting on their hands saying, our guy's going to fall to us. I don't mind him trading up at all. I'm happy with the pick of Deonte Banks, and especially the way the rest of that first round played out. But I do want to ask you guys this question section. Who did you want the Giants to draft? Is there a guy that you maybe didn't get in round 1 that you really, really wanted? Who is it? Type ZF for Zay Flowers, JA for Jordan Addison, or DB for Deonte Banks. I wanted a receiver, but I'm not mad that the Giants selected Deonte Banks. I actually love the pick. I do. I think he's going to be an immediate player. Maybe a little bit of a learning curve for the cornerback. Tough position to translate from college to the National Football League. But the ability for him to possess the size, speed, and strength he does, as well as the abilities of playing man, press, and zone, I think he's going to fit like a glove in the Swink Martindale defense. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to today's video. If you haven't yet, give me a follow on Twitter. And if you've made it this far, be a real one. Hit that thumbs up icon.